Welcome. I'm Lisa, and hi to everybody. Namaskaram. Welcome to today's Saturday Sit. Sorry, it took me a minute. Um, we are talking today about equanimity, continuing on some of our previous chats. And what we've been talking about so far, remember, as a reminder, that equanimity, the working definition that we're using, is evenness of mind. And as a reminder, evenness of mind when things are going our way is easy to do or easier. When things aren't going our way, it's harder. So, in our conversations about equanimity, what we're really talking about is evenness of mind when things are difficult. So, we talked in our previous session about sort of just breaking this need to be for wanting things to be different. And I'm just going to stop myself right here because it's been a busy morning and perhaps like me, you've been moving around quickly, and I'm just going to take a nice centering breath and just get here. So give me just that moment. Okay. Thank you. So we talked in our last session about letting go of some of our control and increasing freedom. And really diving into what that means is letting go or learning to let go of all the ways in which we depend on the world around us to do things that we want them to do, including the 8 billion people plus that we share the planet with, um, and to do those things the way that we want them done. And this can be a prison because as much as we try to get things in a certain pattern and in a way that we can control them or we have perceived control, we learn very quickly that we can't actually control all those things. So when we talk about equanimity and we talk about freedom, what I'm inviting you to consider is that instead of trying to make sure all of the ducks are in a row in our lives, if we work on how we show up, how we respond, how we care for ourselves, the degree to which we make our top priority our own well-being, as we're able to focus on those things, we can start to let go of the tone, say, that a person used when they communicated with us, or someone's attitude, or things beyond our control. There are obviously so many things going on in the world right now over which we have no control. And what we want to do is say, we see those things, we hear those things, we're aware of those things, and we're not impotent in our ability to respond. However, we are not going to allow what's happening around us to determine our experience, because at the end of the day, life is really just about time and space. So if we're spending our time worrying about things that we can't control and trying to manipulate those things, we are, we're gambling away the very precious life that we have been blessed with. So shifting our attention today, we're going to move into what it's like to try and bring an equanimous presence or spirit, an evenness of mind forth in a very robust way when things are going south for us. And this is, I want to point out, the sort of Olympic version of practicing equanimity. This is not something that we attend a couple of classes or we read about and we go, yeah, we got this equanimity thing down. Bring it on, bring on pain, bring on suffering, bring on, emotional challenges and physical challenges because I'm ready. That is not where we start with equanimity. It's a North Star that we're shooting for. But I wanted to take some time to dive into literally how bringing an equanimous approach into something painful can empower us, because this is what we're all about, is empowering and our well-being. And what we want to do is turn our focus away from reacting to those situations and turn our focus instead into just responding to them. And the way that we do that is through practice, of course. Um, but the way that we do that is we need to become aware of the fact that we're triggered by something, and that we're having a hard time with something. But we want to learn to allow. That's a big part of the practice of equanimity, is being able to allow all circumstances to arise and to try to keep our evenness of mind. This is the Olympic version, bringing equanimity to pain. The non-Olympic version, and the one that we repeat and practice very regularly in this space, is to take something very neutral or minute, like as we're meditating, I say, maybe there's a tickle on your neck, or maybe you're hungry, and we're going to do that same thing today. But the caveat here is, if equanimity is a newer concept for you, definitely we're not going to start with something terribly painful. So as we go into the meditation, please keep this in mind. This is your practice. This is your time that you're, sort of generously sharing with me. I just talked about the importance of time. So I want to make this session most functional and most helpful for you. So it's really up to you. If practicing equanimity and meditation is something that you have had in your life for quite some time, you might want to dip into something a little bit more challenging, like a difficult conversation, or even perhaps some type of news that you got that, upended you or had you feeling like you were off center. So as we go into the practice, the invitation is your choice, your practice, your experience. If you're feeling like you want to dip into something more challenging, absolutely bring it on. If you're new to this and you're still trying to get the idea of what does this even mean, this equanimity that we keep talking about, we're going to I'm inviting you to try something very neutral, like a physical sensation. And by the way, going into the body is a great place to start with equanimity. So keeping that in mind, the bigger picture is when we're learning to allow pain and not recoil against it, which is what our programming and our training is to do. What we're really talking again about is responding in a way that feels like us, not ignoring it. We're going to talk in our next session about boundary setting with equanimity, which is awesome, because there's this misconception that equanimity is about, being passive. It's not about being passive. It's actually the opposite. Embracing equanimity is about responding with the inner wisdom that we have and not reacting the way that creatures do, the way that we do when we're unconscious, our compulsive habits, our tendency to honk our horn if somebody cuts us off. No one's saying don't honk the horn. I'm certainly not saying it. What I'm saying is, as we practice equanimity, we become aware that we have an opportunity to honk the horn if that's what we really want to do, or to choose another response, and sometimes to choose no response. So it's about choice. And that's, again, where we come back into the freedom. So putting that space between stimulus and response, as we're looking at moving toward our pain with equanimity and our painful experiences, what we're really doing and intending to create is an openness of heart. And what I mean by that is a heart that is open to everything and ready for anything. Again, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have a response. If we get some terrible information or scary information about a loved one, or perhaps our jobs are in jeopardy, how many people are dealing with that right now in our country with all the changes? What we want to say is, yeah, there probably is a good response. Let me make sure that I don't go out and get drunk and, drive home and hit somebody because I'm upset. Let me make sure that if I need to blow off some steam, I'll find a way to do it. But I'm going to think about it first. I'm going to put a little space between the stimulus and the response. And when I show up, it will be from wisdom and a place of experience and a place of understanding and perspective, and not a place of a knee-jerk, let's go. So as we move into the meditation, again, just reminding you to kind of choose as we do the exploration part of it. If you want to draw on something very neutral, which would be, the safest thing to do. And certainly, even if you're going for something that was difficult, we're not bringing trauma into our meditation today. This is not the place where we're going to bring up something really heavy, because that can be dangerous and very disruptive and not in support of our own well-being. So as far as meditation and the actual session, just reminding us to have this nice straight spine. We want to show up in our meditation place with an availability. We're saying to our environments and to our bodies and to our minds, I'm here, I'm present, I'm available, I'm open. We can personalize our space a little bit with anything that makes us feel welcome, the same as we would if we were inviting a guest to visit our home, or any environment in which we're trying to help someone feel welcome. We want to personalize that space. And as a reminder, meditation is not about getting somewhere. It's not an escape. It's a coming home. And as we practice in longer sessions, shorter sessions, or just catching that breath like I really needed to do at the beginning of our time, it's about coming home and landing. And as we meditate, we're learning to stay. Also, because it's our practice, we can't do it wrong. So you can let yourselves off the hook there. So as we move in to the actual meditation, I'll begin and end the session with a yogic invocation that's in Sanskrit, inviting light and truth and immortality of spirit and peace into our space. And that'll be kind of your cue that we're beginning and ending. And I'll talk us through the first couple cycles of breathing. We've done this hopefully before together. Pull away some of the support as we go. And that is not to say, if this is your first time joining us, thank you for being here. And yeah, I'll guide us through. I'll pull back some of the support. We'll allow some space so that we can process. And then we'll wrap it up with a couple of other ways that you can get involved with this kind of work if you're so inspired. So we're going to take a couple deep breaths, and we're going to go ahead and get started now as we explore pain and equanimity together. Asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya churmaritangamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We're going to begin with the in-breath, count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the out-breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And rest. In-breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And rest. Deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and hold. In breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In breath. Out breath. In breath. Out breath. In breath. Out breath. In breath. Out breath. Continuing our breathing at a pace that's comfortable, remembering to use your counting if needed. As you notice the mind wandering, revert to your counting or simply start breathing again intentionally. You notice thoughts, it's okay. Let them come and go. No need to react. No need to brace. Like watching clouds go by, we notice and we let. As we're exploring, bringing to mind a moment where we were triggered, either by something external or even something internal, perhaps a thought or a fear of something, or we're really noticing in our bodies that there's a sensation that we're inclined to itch, scratch, move. Maybe our foot has fallen asleep, or our fingers are feeling tight and cramped, or maybe we're hungry or have a headache. We want to bring our attention to our experience of discomfort, whether it be a memory of a moment or whether it be something we're experiencing right now. If we relate to the experience as a problem, something that needs to be fixed, we might instantly scratch that itch. If we're relating to a moment of feeling triggered, we might have reacted in a way that didn't feel like us. In both scenarios, imagine the pause. Something happens, we have a memory, we have an itch, and we want to respond. We want it to stop, to not be true. Now imagine consciously inserting a moment between the experience and the response. And along with that moment, imagine inviting an evenness of mind to the experience. Before scratching that itch, before saying no, we're inviting this just a split second, reminding ourselves that we choose first once and then a million times to allow a space where our wisdom and our core and our experience, where the essence of who we feel ourselves to be, not who we take ourselves to be, but who we feel and know ourselves to be, for our response to come from that place. Not from a place of narrative, which can look like, here we go again, or this always happens to me. Things don't go my way. Or if you're in the physical realm at the moment, this hip always bothers me. I hate it. Or why can't I just feel good? Inserting the pause allows us to drop the narrative that we have been programmed by our own selves mostly to repeat again and again and a million times until we become so good at reacting that we do not remember the pause. We do not remember that we can bring equanimity, that we can bring a spirit of openness, a heart that's open to everything and ready for anything. Not because it's easy, but because it matters that when we're responding, whether it be something small or Olympic standard, that we remember that we have this choice. And if and when we bring equanimity to our pain, we allow this wisdom to arise, and we then choose how we want to respond. When we show up in this way in response to our pain, we have less of a mess to clean up when the dust settles. Because when the dust settles from that terrible news we've just received, or our stomach ache relents and goes away, those things will still be there. What is true is true. But what we do if we're reacting unconsciously is we create a mess. We say things we don't mean. We hurt ourselves by behaviors or narratives that are not in support of our well-being. We may break physical things. We may hurt people that we care about. We may hurt people that we don't even know are there because we're unconscious. Bringing equanimity to our pain and even our discomfort reminds us to stay open and to draw on the place of our wisdom. Remembering that moment where you were triggered and wish that you had shown up differently is a great place to work within ourselves and imagine how that might have unfolded in a different way had we paused, had we settled and had our evenness of mind ready at hand. What might have been different? And can we see that there is merit and value in being intentional about how we're responding to the world around us? In doing so, we increase our ability to create and manage and maintain our own well-being. Doesn't change the circumstance, may not prevent, and in fact will not prevent pain, and that's not what we're going for. We're going for the space to call on our wisdom in an equanimous way so that we can be intentional. Let's breathe for a few moments and reflect on what that might mean in a future situation. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Churmaritangamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaskaram. I'd like to share just a brief experience that I had after our last session when we spoke about equanimity. I had an experience, if you recall, I reminded us or invited us to use two different modalities to try to touch or access equanimity, because it's not an easy concept or experience to explain. And I suggested that either looking at the way that we eat or the way that people around us consume food and how particular we are is one area that we can just take notice of what's happening. We're not trying to change the world right now or even change ourselves, but bringing this awareness. The other example that I gave is driving, because that's something that we do on a regular basis. And that's a place that a lot of people get triggered. So just sharing to further illustrate that I was in a situation where I might have been in the car for, an hour-ish. I was working to pick up my specially abled rock star of a son, 25 years old, and we were meeting the other party where there was a lot of congestion and lots of traffic and just people kind of moving around and running around. And it ended up taking about 3 hours before we were actually done with the process and where we needed to be. So I'm sharing this experience because we had just spoken about it. And really, I could feel myself getting anxious. My stomach was churning. I was feeling angry. And mostly what I was feeling was scared, because I didn't want to hit anybody. There were crowds of people. I didn't want to be in reverse in my vehicle because I was so concerned that I wouldn't see somebody. People were cutting other drivers off, including cutting our vehicle off without signals. And I found myself in the beginning, I had that equanimity thing going. I was like, yeah, I see that my body's reacting, but I don't have to react. And I had an awareness, which is, again, just such a big part of the bigger picture of wanting to be intentional about bringing equanimity into a difficult or painful situation. And when I shouted out, you can use your blinker, it was something very sarcastic. I realized, oops, I've tilted and I am not actually using equanimity, but I'm sharing it here just to drive the point home. These are not things that we're going to consume in a transactional way, like going through the drive-through. We're not going to learn them in a second, but bringing this everyday equanimity into our lives. We're looking for places where we're inclined to respond in a negative way, or maybe we actually catch ourselves doing it. That's the moment where you've made some progress. When you realize and you kind of see yourself and you go, oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Then you can say, oh, I think I get it. And then you keep doing more of that. Moving forward, just a couple of other ways to get engaged with the work that we're doing. We are creating in an ongoing fashion, Scars to Medals, which is a virtual healing community. You can join that at scarstomedals.com. We're going to be placing that in the chat once we wrap up here. And there are a couple other things we'll be sharing. One is a meditation PDF. If you're so inspired, there's a step-by-step guide that you can access just as a gift to you if you're installing your stillness practice, which is something that is worthy for all of us, as we have talked about many times. Also, I put forth a book on Amazon, which is The Healing Path, Part 1, Stay Present. It's the first book in a 3-book series. There's a whole chapter on equanimity, great place to start. And you can also learn a little bit more about what brings me to this space, the deaths of 2 of my children, not the best way to get into spiritual practice, but it got me here. So I'm grateful and humbled for that. So you can check that out on Amazon. We also have a newsletter on LinkedIn called Stepping Stones, with just some very regular ways to address particularly grief, since that's been my on-ramp to the experience. But these are all ways that we can get engaged. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Our next session will be in 1 week from today, and 11 o'clock, and we'll be talking about boundary setting with equanimity. It's not quite as heavy as what we did today. So thank you so much for being here. I wish you a peaceful, beautiful day. Until we have the distinct pleasure of connecting again, let's do our best to stay present, to stay grateful, and to stay healing. And as always, namaskaram. Have a great Saturday.